Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Usagi Podjimbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike. This is a podcast all about Usagi Yojimbo, the comic book, that little ronin rabbit that could. I hope you guys enjoyed the Shades of Green crossover, and that was a fun little three-parter we got there. We are moving along within Volume 2, the Mirage Run. We are looking at She Part 1 today. But before we get into that, do a little housekeeping. As always, if you're new, if you're an old listener, you like to help out the podcast. Obviously, listening, it helps. But, share the podcast and make sure to leave a review. It actually helps people find the podcast who haven't found the podcast already. It helps, the podcast grow and prosper, I guess you could say, But thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into this issue. So she starts off with Usagi in a village. We see some merchants going around, people buying things, doing daily chores, stuff like that. I love the little people I don't know if they're cats or dogs, whatever they are, but they're trying to fly a kite. Looks like a daughter and maybe like a dad. I like that right there. It's funny because he's trying to fly a kite, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, But Usagi walks by this merchant. He's selling some vegetables. He's telling the Tokage to scram, get out of here, shoo. And Usagi's like, this product looks fresh. It's no wonder, it attracts the Tokage. He's like, oh, thank you, samurai, Here, have a piece of this daikon, which is radish, apparently. And we see Usagi, he eats it. He's like, oh, this is really good. I really like this radish. And so Usagi starts talking to the merchant, and he's like, yeah, everything grows really good in the tiny town of Izumi. Izumi Valley is what they call it, And as they're talking and whatnot about the food and how it's grown and whatnot, we see these three scoundrels walk up. A tall one, he's like tall and skinny. A big, husky guy. And we see a very short, almost like portly pig, I would say, who kind of is. And as Usagi's talking, he actually gets, I think it's a pumpkin? I'm not for sure. He calls it a kabocha, but it looks kind of like a pumpkin. I don't know what kabocha is, but apparently it'll taste good over an open fire, from what the guy says. And we hear, as they're talking, you hear, well, what do we have here? Oh, look at this product. Oh, it looks all rotten, the pig guy says, or the skinny guy says. He's like, oh, this product looks rotten. And he's like, hey, dirtball, what? The pig guy says, why do you offer us a sample of your stuff? He's like, of course, I'll offer you a sample of my stuff. And then he takes a big bite out of the radish. He's like, oh, this is terrible. Are you trying to poison me? This is awful. It tastes bad. He's like, oh, no, sir. The shopkeeper says, oh, no, I would never try to do that. And he's like, of course not. I would not. This food's good. This food's good. And they go and they ransack the cart. They tip it over. They pick him up by the scruff of his shirt. And they're like, we're going to get you. And you see Usagi in the distance. He's like, let him down gently. And they're like, why don't you stay out of this, Ronin? The three men say. And they get that meddlesome vagabond, the pig says. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna get him. Usagi ends up throwing the kabocha at one of the guys, hitting him. And he makes swift work of these guys. And I love this one scene where he draws his sword. He doesn't even really cut them. He uses martial arts against them, which is pretty cool to see. But he ends up putting the tip of his sword inside the pig's nose and tells them to get out of here. And they run away. And the merchant says, thank you, samurai. You saved me from a terrible beating. And Usagi's like, oh, it was nothing. And as the guys are running away, they're like, oh, we're going to get you someday, Ronin. And we see this man shows up. He's like, oh, what's going on here? And we see the merchant, and he's like, Magistrate Suoka, I'm sorry, sir, And Suoka says, well, that's a disturbance. And the merchant's trying to tell Suoka, the magistrate of the town, no, it's okay. The riffraff overturned my cart, my vegetable cart, they threatened me, but the samurai came in to save me. And Suoka says, oh, I guess I have you to thank, but I try to run a peaceful town here. I don't want you to cause any more trouble. I think you should leave. He says that to Usagi, and he's like, I advise you to take my suggestion, samurai. And he in his head he calls him interfering fool, and Usagi says pompous lout. I don't know what a lout is, but the other guys try to help the shopkeeper, the merchant, with this stuff. Usagi helps him with his vegetables and whatnot. And he's like, at least I can do is offer you a place to stay for the night. And Usagi accepts. He's like, my name is Miyamoto Usagi. And he's like, pleased to meet you. My name is Moyashi, is what his name is. Moyashi. I think I might have almost butchered that name. I think I might have. But later on, we are back at Magistrate Suoka's residence, and he's like, how could you let a single ronin beat you guys up? What do I pay you guys for? And then we see the three guys who were causing so much trouble. Apparently, Suoka is paying for them to do stuff, and he basically wants them to drive all the merchants and villagers and whatnot out of this specific village, and getting them to run off because there is some stuff at the particular village that he wants to get. He's like, oh, I want you to take care of this samurai. If you don't, you guys have enough crimes against you that you'll basically be executed, and we'll take care of that, And they're like, oh yes, sir. We'll do what we need to, sir. We're gonna run off all the villagers of this town. And as they go off to do their bad guy stuff, we see you hear like a knock at the door, and we see a man come in with a big jug of what I'm guessing is alcohol over his shoulder, and he's like, "It's me, dear brother Juzo." So apparently, Sayoka has a brother named Juzo. And he's like, it sounds like you're having some kind of a problem on your hands. I told you we should just kill all the villagers and be done with it. And he's like, don't be a fool, Sayoka says. Don't be a fool. The entire village massacred. That would actually attract the attention of the Lord. And that's the last thing we actually need to do. He says they are sure to discover that the reason for our interest in the village, in the valley is, and we see Juzo, he's drinking his alcohol, and he burps, and he's like, the gold. They're going after the gold. And we get a backstory where Juzo and Sayoka are actually, I don't know why I said Sayoka, it's Suiko. Suiko is his name. I don't know why I keep mispronouncing that, but Suiko and Juzo, they actually were just doing a business one night, and one of the farmers actually come in and bring in some really bright stones that he thought was gold, and he wanted to share it with everybody and share the wealth basically. And so he brought it to the magistrate because he thought he could trust the magistrate. Little did he know, as they were celebrating, the two men, Juzo and Suoka, actually got this man drunk. And they actually pushed him off a cliff and said he got drunk by himself, apparently. That was the story, and he accidentally fell off this road that was on the side of a cliff. And that's the backstory that we get for this. So we can definitely see how vile and villainous these two greedy men are, I have to say, and so bad for them covering up and stealing the gold. But, that is, to say the least, or the case, I guess you could say, being with Sioka and his giant bushy eyebrows. You never trust anybody with giant bushy eyebrows. Usagi and Moyoshi are walking back to his village, talking and whatnot, and they're starting to talk about, like the village and whatnot. And Moyoshi actually happens to say, last week, Jiro, he went to go see the magistrate, and he ended up, for some reason, he got drunk and fell off the cliff, and I don't really know why on his return home. And it's a funny thing because Jiro traveled the road all the time, so I don't understand like why he would like fall off the roads. They're kind of making small talk and whatnot about everything that's been going on and stuff, and they actually get back to Miyoshi's village. It's a very small village. He gets back and he's like, "Oh, Yoshi, oh, my bones. They're getting too old for this." And Usagi smells something really good at Miyoshi's house. We end up meeting Miyoshi's wife. And he's like, "Oh, family, I'm back." She has a very like scour like look on her face. She looks very mad. I guess a scowl, not a scoury, a scowl like a look on her face, and she's mad. And his daughter is like, "Oh, a samurai." Like she is very much taken back, and she, Moyoshi says, only the best for Usagi-san, he saved me from a beating. And she's like, "Oh, of course." His wife, he says, "Of course we'll give him the best." She has a mean look on her face, and he thanks, and she meets his daughter, Kimi, I believe her name is Kimi, and she seems very smitten with Usagi. After they finish their meal, Usagi is stuffed with the delicious food. Moyoshi's wife still giving the dirty looks, just saying, and Moyoshi's like, it's better than that pumpkin that we were going to eat. And Kimi and Usagi, well, she suggests that they should go for a walk to walk off their meal that they had. And then Moyoshi's like, yeah, you kids go have a good time. And he's like, Usagi's like, "Oh, what a beautiful night it is," whatnot. And we see Moyoshi and his wife talking. I'm going to get that wrong all the time. It's Moyashi, not Moyoshi, it's Moyashi. But his wife says, "Why did you bring this samurai here? He's going to bully us and cause us problems, we don't need that." And Moyashi is like, "Oh, no, he's a good person, And she's like, "Why did you send him? You would let Kimi and him go off. He's gonna take advantage of her." And Moyashi's like, No, he's not gonna do that. He's a nice guy. We can't, just think that because we're lower class, that we're gonna these samurai aren't gonna take advantage of us. He's a nice guy. He's not gonna take advantage of us, So as Kimi and Usagi are walking, he's talking about how it's a wonderful, you must lead a very wonderful life. Usagi's like, it's far from it, he says, and I'm just a wanderer with no place to call home. It is you I envy, actually. And we get a very much a difference of opinion in this, because she sees the samurai life as very much like a glamorous life, I would say. And she very much says, that, I bet you must meet a bunch of lords and beautiful court ladies, while you're, running around. I'm just a plain ignorant peasant girl. And Usagi's like, "No, you're not plain, or ignorant." And she kind of blushes, and she's like, "You're so sweet. You got a honey tongue." I don't know what a honey tongue is. Maybe just a sweet tongue. I don't know. But apparently he made her blush. And she says, she kind of pushes herself up against Usagi. And Kimi says, "But this is such a boring life. Always been a dream of mine to see the world with the handsome samurai." And this is where Usagi Usagi kind of does like a scared straight thing almost to her. I feel like he like gets real in this situation. But as I was saying, Usagi puts the fear of God into her, I would say, kind of almost. But he's like, I'm forever alone, no family, few friends, no purpose in life, living as a pauper, wondering where am I going to have my next meal is going to come from. This is the life I lead. And Kimi says, but I wouldn't have to be like this if you had someone to share it with. And we see them talking, and so he's like, "Don't be a fool. I would trade everything to be content with your life." And she's like, "Oh no, you're teasing me, And Kimi says, "I've lived here my whole life in the valley, and I like to see the world one day." And she asks him again, please take me with you. I'll do anything to go with you. I'll even be your slave, as she says. Do they have slaves in the Usagi Yojimbo universe? I don't know if we've come across that at all. That'll be interesting if they actually do cover slavery in this. Yeah. Let me know if they do that, because this is the first reference I've seen where they've referenced that. And we hear, Usagi's like, wait a minute, I don't know about this, And we hear Kimi in the background. And he's like, Nobu, what are you doing here? And he's like, I could say the same thing about you. He's this cat guy. And who's this? This is Usagi-san. He saved my father from some hooligans in the town. And you see him talking, and he's like, gratitude? We're not showing him gratitude at all, no. And Kimi's like, why would you talk to me like that? And he's like, but Kimi, we're engaged to be married. I guess you don't talk to people like that when you're engaged to be married. She's like, married? We promised a promise we made when we were children. You're still, you're as boring as the rest of the village. I can't stay here. I can't. And they actually get into like a big fight and whatnot. And after the big fight, they go looking for Usagi, and Usagi is nowhere to be seen. We see the three men from before. I'll just call them the Stooges, the men who roughed up and are trying to get rid of all the people in the valley. They're looking around, trying to figure out where exactly Usagi went, because they're actually spying on him, because they want to go take him out and kill him, basically. They can't find him because Usagi took off, and they hear this eep, 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 eep in the grass. They're like, oh, look, it might be a Tokage, And they still, to quote, Tokage is still making noise, and they're like, I can't, with this stupid lizard getting on my nerves. And one of the pig guys like, I'll take care of it, come here. And Usagi pops up, and he's like, the pig guy's like, oh, not again. Oh, my God. I can't deal with this. And he ends up taking care of them, humiliating them again, as you might say. Usagi ends up telling them to get lost. And the Three Stooges, they end up later on, they're running for their lives, trying to get back to their boss. They're running, panting. They don't think Usagi's after them, but little do they know Usagi is, and he actually is spying on them, doing some covert work, some stealth operations, and he sees them going to the magistrate's house. He's kind of peeking around a corner, looking at them. Minutes later, we see Usagi. He is drunk off his butt, or is he? Is singing about big fish and swimming around and in the rain and on my pole and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And you see his whole nature change. He's like, oh, this is a beautiful house. Well, who lives here? Who lives here? Who? And he's like, and the guard's like, oh, this is the magistrate's house. Beat it. We can't deal with you. And Usagi goes off. He's like, so this is the magistrate's house, hey? Interesting. So the Three Stooges go and inform the magistrate, Soyoka, He is like, fools, you were discovered. Were you followed? We can't have this. Get out. We can't have our plan basically ruined. Get out here. I'll deal with the three of you later. And we see Juzo talking to his brother Tsuyoka, and he's like, this is going to this is going to ruin everything, and don't blame me when you're the don't blame me. You're the one who hired them. Juzo says, and he's like, what's your plan? What are we gonna do? And we find out that Juzo actually hired a band of four who apparently are professional assassins. He already summoned them. They'll do away with the meddler, and with no one will question the death of a single ronin. They are some of the best assassins. They call themselves Shi, S-H-I. And the magistrate's like, Shi? That means four. There are four of them. Four assassins. That actually kind of made me laugh. Like he was saying that. And he's like, yeah. And Juzo's like, yeah, except they spell Shi with this character. And he puts a finger in his drink and spells it out on the ground. And the magistrate's like, that means death. And you see his whole demeanor just change. And the magistrate, Tsuyoka, is like, assassins, with a sense of humor. I appreciate this little joke. I think our problems will be solved. Good work, brother. You did well. And Juzo's like, thanks. And once that's all done, apparently, Juzo says, they'll actually, after they kill the ronin, they'll take care of you as well. So apparently Juzo has another plan up his sleeve. Very sneaky. Early in the morning, actually, the next day, I guess it is, Usagi holds a town meeting, and he's like, I advise you no one to leave the village. The magistrate is planning something and whatnot, and he wants something to do with the village, and he doesn't really know what he wants to do with the village at this point, but the villagers actually end up turning on him. They're like, how dare you slander our magistrate or his household, He's the one who actually protects us. If we have you protect us, how much will it cost you, samurai? And they're like, look at him. We see Nobu jump out of the crowd, and he's like, look at him. He's just a penniless wanderer. No doubt he makes his living preying on the fears of ignorant farmers like us. We can't deal with him and whatnot, And they kind of rally the crowd around. He rallies the crowd around and along with him. It's like, and Usagi says, regardless of how you feel, I'll accompany you for your safety. And he's like, no, I don't need your safety, samurai. I can go all alone. So we see Nobu pushing his cart of radishes, and he's like, so Kimi likes a brave, dashing samurai, huh? But I'll show him up for the troublemaker and fraud that he actually really is. I'll show her. I'm going to be tough and whatnot. As he's pulling his cart, he actually runs into the three stooges at this point, and they're like, well, who do we have here? They're pulling their same stick that they got going on. Grubby little farmer telling us what to do, because Nobu told him to move out of the way. We gotta teach you some respect, you little tough guy. And, we're good teachers. And they actually end up beating him up, turning over his cart, and leaving him on the side of the road, knocked out. He's coughing. He falls to the ground. He can hardly move. Maybe if he just lie here a little bit, he can, he kind of passes out a little bit. He's like, a shadow. Is that them again? They've returned to finish me off. And he kind of gets scared, and he's like, no, please, stay back. Who are you? Who are you? And we just see these four figures, and one of them replies with death. They are death. And that is the end of this issue. I have to say, though, the plot definitely thickens. Part 1 of She does leave you with wanting more, I have to say, in that aspect. Because I do feel like, I don't want to say like there was a lot of like building up in this story, I have to say. And for me, in this particular issue, it did take a while to get building up. I feel like things like, I don't want to say things were at like a standstill in a sense, but it felt like in this first issue, it felt a little like, I don't want to say like a slog to read, but part of me was a little bored when I first read this issue. I do think it picks up towards the end when we get like the quote bad guys to come in, like the cool bad guys, because the magistrate very much is like a mustache twirling bad guy. He wasn't really interesting to me, to have to say, to that extent, because he's very much like just a greedy mustache twirling guy who wants some gold. I think it's really interesting to see like a group of assassins come in, and each of them seem to be like good at like their trade or skill or whatever. And we get them at the very end, as I hit my microphone. But yeah, I mean, this one, I do definitely feel like on its own, it was okay. But I think when it's paired with the second part, it's going to be a really good read, I have to say. I didn't hate it. There were parts I liked. The whole running away with Usagi was kind of funny, with Kimi wanting to run away with Usagi and be Usagi's, I don't know, love thing. I don't really know what she was trying to be, but she wanted to get away. That was kind of interesting to see, and how Usagi basically was like, my life kind of sucks. Like, I would rather have your life, which I think he said that before. They would rather have like settle down and have like a normal life and not be a ronin. And he was like, no. Your life is so much better. You're just like fantasizing my life and making it better than it seems to be. Romanticizing is the word I'm looking for. Romanticizing my life in that aspect. But yeah, it's a good issue. It's a good start to a good story. And we'll get to that story next time. Hope you guys enjoyed this particular podcast. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, comment on Spotify now. You can leave comments and feedback about this episode. If you'd like to do so, that would be wonderful, because I'd love to hear some feedback and whatnot. You can also find me at Usagi Podjimbo and Usagi Yojimbo podcast. Go check me out there. You can also check me out on my other podcast, which is an anime and manga podcast, where I talk about different anime and manga with my co-host, Jin. We do the Otakuology podcast. You can check us out over there on all major podcast platforms. But yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this particular episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.